Hey, ELD with Brainstorm MTG, and here we have the finals of the Scholars Legacy event held on February 10th, 2018. We've got Storm, and it's actually versus Ken here. He is on a Grixis list. Likely Grixis Delver could be a check pile style control deck, but he has been sleeving up Delver recently, so we'll see as that unfolds. And of course, I am on Storm. The winner here will be tied at least for first place. And here we go. So for Storm versus blue decks, generally you're hoping to have some type of discard or at least a probe to be able to know if the shields are down. It feels very bad to run all of your spells out there leading up to a game-winning spell only to have it Force of Willed, so you're generally going to need some type of information or just the ability to just strip it right out of their hands. Probe is so strong along those lines, as there are a large subsection of games where they just don't have the counterspell. They've got a strong hand otherwise, and they believe they're going to be able to get there off of Brainstorm and friends. And when the shields are down, you can just go ahead and kill them on turn 1 or 2. So that is a nice little added benefit of Gitaxian Probe, aside from the card draw and the Storm and building Threshold. Card just does a lot of very subtle things very well. We got Polluted Delta there. Actually signed by Rob Alexander. Signs a lot of cards, so not a rare signature there. Very active in the Magic community. And probing again into Lotus Petal. So it looks like a bunch of mana available. But that Force of Will, even detectable just from the corner of the art, so immediately recognizable, such an iconic piece. And grabbing an Underground Sea, so not really playing around Wasteland here. Of course, you're not always able to. You're going to need both black and blue mana. And going to fire off a Brainstorm. So it looks like Infernal is in there. We got Preordain. Got the Duress for the Force, so this is looking quite good. Of course, a little tilted after throwing away a game last match. Can be difficult to recover from. When your decisions starkly switch in between certain victory and total defeat, those ones sting. And passing over to Ken, and it looks like Deathrite Shaman going to be able to really pull some early mana. I have a fetch land in my graveyard. Ken has one in his graveyard. So very fertile Deathrite Shaman here. Going to be able to do all of the things he does so well. Accelerate in the early game, and then in the mid to late game be able to use that Deathrite to groom the Storm graveyard to make sure it is not lethal or even below threshold if possible, making Cabal Ritual just that much worse. Of course, that's all done at instant speed, so he's really good at preventing Past in Flames from being lethal, just removing that one little key linchpin which is so often there, and showing just a fistful of goodness right there. Whole lot of good stuff. Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, double Ritual. Ken dropping his land for turn. This is a very dangerous hand. Very, very dangerous. All right. So let's see here. Going to start with a Duress. See what one of those two mystery cards are. And thinking through his responses, he has 2 possible mana available. He's got a Brainstorm. You could hide that force, but that would almost certainly mean death here, as I do have Lion's Eye Diamond and some rituals, tons of fast mana. So if the shields can be down just for a turn, this game will wrap up immediately. Ken thinking it through. And he's going to shrink the graveyard a little bit in order to spell pierce that Duress. So a counterspell drawn off of those early digging efforts, really helpful there, keeping that force of will in hand. So that is an excellent, excellent card off the top of his deck. And we'll see if he's going to keep any more up there. He does have the ability to shuffle. And he knows at any time this game could be over if I can get past that counter magic. 2 unknown. We got Brainstorm and Force, which can either dig for more blue cards and some more of a clock. Deathrite alone, unlikely to get there. That is a lot of turns against a Storm hand that looks that close to lethal. And there we go. We have a Brainstorm here. And another Force. So Ken really assembling Force and blue cards to try and prevent the lethal turn. Looks like he may attempt to hide a Force of Will on top of his deck, a play that was much more common in the era of Sensei's Divining Top. In the past, you were able to float a Force of Will or even a Flusterstorm in those top 3 cards indefinitely with a Sensei's Top versus a deck like Storm. And, certainly a card like Mindbreak Trap, literally can't even be beat from that position. They can strip your entire hand, but it's very, very difficult for them to force you to shuffle your library. All right, so Ken passing with counter magic and got a Preordain, avoiding the Brainstorm lock. See an Empty the Warrens. That could actually be very interesting. Could naturally get to cast Empty the Warrens just off of Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, play those 0 casting cost artifacts. So that is certainly a line. And he does have that Forked Bolt. We would assume he would have shuffled it away by now. So that actually would be good against a mob of goblins. But it doesn't take that many goblins to get past a Deathrite Shaman for lethal. No creatures in the graveyard yet, no ability to gain life on that side of the table. So 10 goblins, once you get rid of, if that Fork Bolt's not there, 10 goblins would be lethal. Hitting for 9 and then 8. Ken with plenty of permission, not much of a clock. A very cautious player. And he's going to go ahead and ponder. He's got the Lorwyn Ponders there. Of course, the popular reprint from M10. People generally have an opinion on which one they like more. I think the Lorwyn one is rather absurd. I get a kick out of it. And ooh, a wasteland. That is uncalled for. Oh, brutal. So now digging for lands as well, potentially. Most likely going to need 2 different colored mana. Now, if the Force of Will wasn't there, could still Dark Ritual into Cabal Ritual and get that extra second color off of the Lion's Eye Diamond, but that's an all-in line. Wasteland just brutal there. Of course, a basic island was an option. We'll see what Ken has. And a Gurmag Angler, so now he has both the Disruption in hand and a legitimate clock. Of course, there have been a few turns here where Deathrite Shaman could have been removing cards in order to drain 2 life at a time. Oh, and a Daze. Ooh, that does not feel good right there. So sacking Lotus Petal, the only mana source on board to Brainstorm here, is met with a Daze. And there's another Lotus Petal. Several face-down cards. In such a dangerous situation. I mean, just need the shields to be down for just a moment. Anytime that Ken doesn't have any counters left in hand, this match could be over. He's got Force in hand still. And there's the 5 to the face from that zombie fish. This is very close to over. Still threatening on the Storm side of the board, but without the mana to actually cast any type of discard spell, this is a very bad spot. And just sacrificing to Ponder would be so much better as a Brainstorm here. And multiple Force of Wills. Ponder is going to resolve. And that will not do. So effectively at 1 life, a fetch land really not helpful. Not Grim Lavamancer, might as well be a Grim Lavamancer. That Deathrite Shaman is going to be able to do 2 to my face during the end step and during Ken's turn if I somehow crack a fetch land here. But it looks like this is going to be all but over. Just taking his pick of what to remove. Going down to 8. We've got an attack from a Gurmag. And we'll see if he's got any type of burn left. It looks like the burn has been shuffled away at this point. Oh no, he still has that Forked Bolt. He kept on the whole time. And that's it. So that is a very long game 1 right there. The whole time, right on the cusp. As you see, there's a Dark Petition in hand. Just could not get past that counter magic game 1. While the sideboarding is happening here, always like to thank Scholars Games. That's where this tournament took place. And our weekly tournament series every Wednesday night, 7:30, is broadcast live. And that is on Twitch TV/Brainstorm MTG. Of course, these are the archives of those videos, and we have started doing commentary for them. If this is the type of thing that you guys like, let me know in the comments, and of course, let me know how we can improve. There's definitely been some great insight so far, and we've been able to adopt a bunch of those changes. So really having a lot of fun trying to make these kind of the best that we can with the limited resources that we do have. And let's see here, shuffling up on the Storm side, really Hope of Ghirapur could possibly come in. That is a card that's not at its best versus Delver. It is replacing Defense Grid, and that was an interesting switch. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I do think Hope of Ghirapur is very good versus Sneak and Show. They really don't have much in the way of blocking it outside of course, Emrakul or Griselbrand, and at that point, you're probably not having a good time anyways. So Defense Grid is a trade-off there. Of course, it costs 2 mana. Putting it in off of their Show and Tell can be interesting, especially if they just plan on passing the turn after drawing a bunch of cards from Griselbrand, which is a totally reasonable line typically versus Storm, but not so much if you can't cast any of your spells. So yeah, we'll see how Hope of Ghirapur plays out long term. It is not quite a colorless Xantid Swarm. The fact that it has to connect with them is a problem. If it only had to attack like Xantid Swarm, I think it would be a much, much stronger card. To the point where, I mean, probably just never consider running Xantid Swarm ever. You generally only need that one turn. All right, 2, 4, 6, 7 cards. Here we go. Ken looks like he's got a New Art Daze in his hand. Storm on the play, generally pretty comfortable in that. Really being on the play with Storm can kind of emphasize the speed of the deck. And thinking through that opener, it is a decision, more so with Storm than many other decks. Those opening 7 really can make or break the entire game, and at this point, the entire match. Down a game, going into game 2. All right, so it's been thought through. Gitaxian Probe revealing Daze, Spell Pierce, looks like Surgical Extraction, Cabal Therapy, Volcanic and Tropical, and can't quite make out the card second from the bottom there. It kind of looks like a Delver of Secrets. All right, so main phase, Gitaxian Probe into Brainstorm, and a whole bunch of bombs in hand. Island, Lotus Petal, Cabal, Ritual, so Ad Nauseam, very close to online. Of course, those Cabal Rituals much, much better with Threshold. Well, that may actually be a probe above the therapy. If that is the case, that therapy is going to have perfect information if black mana arises. Of course, no black mana in sight currently. Alright, so it looks like some of the bombs are going to get put on top. That double Cabal Ritual staying in hand, very risky. Very, very risky. Of course, Surgical not as attractive. Past in Flames not as attractive with Surgical in hand. So this may be an error here. Leaving the ability for that 2-for-1, very, very dangerous. Of course, we'd already seen in another match how devastating it can be to lose multiple Cabal Rituals. one of the most important cards in the deck. Perhaps the obvious line here being Cabal Therapy, hitting the Cabal Rituals, and then surgicaling those Cabal Rituals. And it looks like he's actually just firing off the surgical on Brainstorm. Interesting. So getting a shuffle. Any cards hidden on top are now shuffled back into the deck. So we have to assume perhaps he doesn't have the black mana there off of those two cards. If he doesn't have black mana, this is still going to be a problem. And let's see what he's got here. So Daze, Spell Pierce. Plenty of soft counters available. And just figuring out which land to play, either that Volcanic or the Tropical. So luckily no black mana from Ken here. And a basic island coming down. So many Cabal Rituals here. Of course, Infernal not able to really do anything with that Dark Petition in hand. So firing off a Lotus Petal into Infernal. So Infernal not able to be dazed here because of the Lotus Petal. It can be Spell Pierced, and what that's going to do is actually get another Cabal Ritual, most likely. Either that or the Mystery card. The Dark Petition is a singleton and certainly not something you want multiples of in your hand. Really moving toward an all-in line here. If Ken does manage to draw that black source, the Cabal Therapy on his side would then strip out all three Cabal Rituals. So he does Spell Pierce there, stopping the assembly of a 3 Cabal Ritual hand. All right, and let's see. Ooh, a fetch land. Interesting in that I believe that was a card he had access from last turn. It looks like that was actually the middle card that he flipped up there. So perhaps he was actually slow rolling the Cabal Therapy. Difficult to see good cause for that. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. So keeping that Spell Pierce online. Oh, and I drew a Cabal Ritual. So that is 3. Anyways, that's the second time this tournament. 3 Cabal Rituals going to the bin. Oh, no. That is not ideal. Wow. Wow, and another land. So that type of card advantage is very, very difficult to come back from there. That is just brutal. So a Dark Petition in hand, just a Daze on board, as known counter magic. Who knows what's in those other 2 cards? Ken able to use Spell Pierce previously to stop the Infernal. Oh, and then we've got a Lion's Eye Diamond here. And a fetch. Going to 16. So it looks like we might actually see a play here. 3 mana could go to 5 if it's a... Oh, and it's the 4th Cabal Ritual. I was going to say a Dark Ritual doesn't do it. It has to be the single Cabal Ritual left. Wow, what a card here. So 5 mana is going to be able to pay for that Dark Petition. Lotus Petal or Lion's Eye Diamond could pay with the Daze. And we've got a blue perhaps being added here. And he's going to daze. And it's getting paid. And another blue and another daze. All right, so double daze. And that is getting paid for. So right now, no mana floating. Spell Mastery is acquired, so there will be 3 black once this resolves. Oh no, it's just a pass turn there. So interestingly enough, actually past the turn there. It looks like Lion's Eye Diamond could have paid for that Infernal, for the pay for the days in order to keep that going, because that would have been 6 mana. Very interesting. That may just be a misplay. Young Pyromancer. Yeah, that seems like just throwing the game away there. So Gitaxian Probe goes to 14. Shields are down. No, just 3 lands in hand. So it could have been 6 mana on that prior turn. Would have went down to 5. Could have grabbed Past in Flames. It depends if there's a Dark Ritual. There's definitely Cabal Rituals in the graveyard. And Empty the Warrens would have been possible too. After all of those dazes. Very, very interesting. Possibly a misplay. It does look that way. And thinking through some options available. Lion's Eye Diamond does give quite a burst of card advantage. And there we go. Looks like moving all in here. So Infernal, cracking Lion's Eye Diamond. Storm counts 2 after that probe. Getting another Lion's Eye Diamond. Storm 3, and Past in Flames was discarded there. So there was no Dark Ritual in the graveyard before. That is why the dazes were able to work. So playing Probe here. And gonna need a Mana Source. I mean, a Mana Source does end it. If a Mana Source comes in here, and that'll actually turn the Cabal Rituals back online. And a land, so look at that. That's actually going to do it. Because that fetch land actually wouldn't go to the exile. It's not a Yogg-Will, but it's kind of close. Past in Flames from the graveyard. Flashback off of those double Lion's Eye, and now it's time for Cabal Rituals. All 4 of them. 5 plus 9, 14 black mana. And Dark Petition. And this should be plenty lethal at this point. So there, very big swing there. Looks like possibly throwing away the game by not just settling for empty, and instead it looks like the Tendrils plan ended up taking the game back after an all-in Past in Flames. with no certainty whatsoever, had to hit a mana source off of those Gitaxian Probes. So that is some very, very fun Magic. Just really genuinely not knowing what's going to happen as you're playing the cards. Just see what happens. Just draw a couple. If you hit a mana source, that is the match. Or that is the game. We still have one more game to go in this very competitive match. Because I am piloting Storm, and we've got Ken. Ignore that marquee. It's actually Ken, and this is the finals of the Scholars Legacy Tournament. This is the monthly Legacy. We hold these every single month, typically the second Saturday of the month. But you want to go ahead and join the Scholars Facebook page, or go to Brainstorm MTG, either Facebook, the website, brainstormmtg.com, or Twitch TV, and you'll be able to keep up to speed with all of this Eternal format streaming that we do from Scholars and the other stores in New England where I attend Eternal events. So here we go, going into Game 3 in what has been quite a match so far. Going to be on the draw. And some explosive cards there. Ad Nauseam with some fast mana. Ken, double force. Probably where he likes to be. Very little else is required for a keep there aside from the blue cards, but he's got the mana, he's got the forces. And he is going to keep. He has the Deathrite as well. That is exactly the type of hand that his deck wants. And I've got a Probe. So very good in a Storm list. Especially with the rise of alternative counter spells. It was very different when it was just Force of Will and Mana Drain in Vintage or in Legacy, when you were dealing with, just this very specific amount of counters. Now you've got so many options. Daze, Spell Pierce, Force of Will, Flusterstorm, you name it. They have accumulated over the years, and the metagame has evolved to the point where they've all kind of found this little niche. You also have instant speed removal for the graveyard. So there's a lot of different things to play around now, and Probe really just does an incredible job of giving you that information, moving your game plan forward in terms of drawing a card, building Storm, and building your graveyard. And, of course, setting up Cabal Therapy here. Ken is going to need to either force or lose both forces. So either way, he's going to be losing 2 cards from hand, which is really where Cabal Therapy wants to be. He's thinking through, it's pretty clear cut here. You've got 2 forces. If you want to lose both of them, just let it resolve. If you don't want to lose both forces, then you're going to have to pitch either Ponder or Gitaxian Probe, and clearly Gitaxian Probe, the weaker of the 2 cards in his list. And it looks like he's considering Ponder, which would indicate that that top card is blue. And we'll see he's already tapped the island. He's really thinking it through. That may not be a blue card. Very dangerous to walk away from Force of Will with a Ponder, just hoping to hit a blue card in the top. Especially if you just see a blue card in like 2 lands or other unattractive cards. Having to keep all 3 on top just to make sure your Force of Will stays online is very punishing. He is going to make his land drop, and he's going to pass. So we know Force and Ponder are a problem. A lot of powerful cards in hand there. We see the Ad Nauseam. We see a bunch of rituals. End of turn, he's activating Deathrite, which is a bit of a clock. All right, so that is actually what's happening. Down to 13. Force of Will and Ponder. That pair of cards standing in the way of victory here. Ken thinking it through. And Gitaxian Probe. Interesting. Probe the type of card that would be very well suited to pitching to force. But he's going to go ahead and fire that off. And it looks like we might actually have a response. Nope. All right, here we go. So Ad Nauseam could have been fired off there in response, forcing the Force of Will to be pitched. The Ponder to be pitched to Force of Will if there's not a lesser blue card. But yeah, either one of these could be lethal. We have the Ad Nauseam and the Infernal Tutor. It's just going to be a question of making sure there's enough ritual mana to support both of them. Of course, Cabal Ritual making 5 mana with Threshold. A perfect pairing with the 5 mana necessary for Ad Nauseam to just use those 2 cards as Force of Will bait during an end step. And it looks like it's going to be a Dark Ritual. Lotus Petal will have to go in order to make an end step Ad Nauseam. And it looks like we're going to see Ad Nauseam used as bait here. That's it. Just throw it out there right into the Force of Will. And on the other side, it is Infernal and a bunch of mana producers. So Force does have to hit that. And we've got to hope that that final card is not Flusterstorm. All right, so it looks like that Ad Nauseam was actually not during the end step. That was in response to that Ponder. That Ponder is on the stack. So passing back, we can see that it'll still be 5 mana from the Cabal Ritual, and the Rain of Filth will net 1 mana. So still need red mana in order to Past in Flames or empty the Warrens, and a Tendrils would not be lethal from there. So we're going to need some red mana during this draw step. But completely tapped down. Young Pyromancer has joined the party. Will likely close out the game in 2 or 3 turns. And really just need a red source. That would be ideal. A Volcanic Island or a fetch land would be tremendous. That would actually make the Rain and Filth a little bit better, being able to sacrifice 3 instead of just 2 lands. Oh, and it's Lotus Petal, and I think that's going to be enough. There we go. Still going to have plenty of threshold here. So Storm 1, getting a blue here. Sacking those 2 lands, going to go up to 2 black in a blue. Keeping that graveyard order correct. It is actually relevant in Legacy. Cabal Ritual going to go to 5 black in a blue. And that'll be Storm 3, Storm 4 with Infernal Tutor. And that'll be 4 black in a blue floating. I do believe that count is correct, so we should have Storm 4. We've got Lotus Petal, Infernal, Cabal Ritual. Oh, I guess that's Storm 3. Here we go. So Past in Flames. Be able to leave just a black mana floating. Going to Storm 4. And that is it. The shields were down for just a little bit here. And this Past in Flames is going to be able to generate a massive amount of mana and card advantage. I thought we had a Dark Ritual in there. Perhaps no. No, we can see the Dark Ritual. So that should do it. At only 15 life, we should be able to Dark Ritual to go to 3, Cabal Ritual to go to 6. That would be 6 Storm, 6 Black, Infernal. Now I have not played a land yet, so I'm just going to probe just to be sure. So no matter what, that will do it. Of course, that is a common mistake when you're using Infernal. If you actually Gitaxian Probe before you Infernal, you can run into problems if you draw a card that you can't get rid of. So that could have been problematic. But at 15, it looks like Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual will push us to Storm 7. So even if I did draw a brick, I'd still be able to Cabal Therapy it out, perhaps. All right, let's see here. We got 6 black, Storm 7. And then there's the Dark Petition. So that'll do it. Storm goes to 8, and then get the 3 black from the Spell Mastery. Of course, if additional Storm was needed, Lion's Eye Diamonds are an option. You can grab Lion's Eye Diamonds and play those, and then chain with Infernals and Dark Petitions. That is a way of generating extra Storm when you're in this type of situation. But totally unnecessary. Knowing what's in his hand and what's on board, that is a certain victory. So that is the match right there. Well played by Ken. In a challenging matchup that tends to have a lot of important decisions. Well, that is the match. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any improvements that you can think of for these videos, let me know in the comments below. We really appreciate all of the comments and feedback we've gotten so far. We've actually been able to make some improvements just in the past couple of weeks since people have been sending in comments. If you want to send them directly, it's eld@brainstormmtg.com, or you can just message me on the Facebook page, Brainstorm MTG. Always appreciate your feedback, and thanks for watching. Peace.